Hello and welcome to lesson 2 of week 5. In this lesson, we are going to look at pseudo-classes, pseudo-elements, and then we look at how we apply this to link. My name is Mildred. A pseudo-class is used to define the special state of an element, and we write it using the colon followed by the pseudo-class name. So when we have a style on the web page, like the anchor tag, we want to apply a style to this anchor tag. We know that by default, we say it blue. When we click on this, it becomes purple. When it's active, it's red. Those are the default style for the anchor tag or the link tag. We want to change this using a pseudo-class definition. We have pseudo-classes that we use for this. We have the hover, which selects an element when we mouse over or the mouse pointer is over it. We have the active, which applies when an element is being clicked. And then we have the focus, which styles an element like an input when it has focus. Then we have the visited, that styles a link after the link has been clicked on or visited. Then we have other things like the first child, last child, ends child, type of ends of type n or not selector, things like that. So let's look at them. We have a lot of them. If you refer to your lesson resource, you will see them. So let's say we want to apply a style to the anchor tag. The color we want is blue, right? And we want the underline to be taken away. Now for this anchor tag, we want to say when we hover, so we'll put the anchor tag, a colon, and put hover. When we hover over the anchor tag, we want the color to be red. So we're changing the default. When it is active, so we use the active pseudo-class, and we want the color to be green. And we want, let's just use this hover and active for now. We're going to go in more details about the order of specifying this when we look at links. When I refresh this, we've changed the color. It's blue, constantly blue. When we hover, it is this, and when we click on it, it is green. So you can see we have the style applied. We have something else we call the end child pseudo-class. Let me change this. I'm going to comment this out and I'm going to use this. So I want to discuss the end child pseudo-class. Now for this, we want to use list. When we specify a list, we want to have styles applied based on the position of the list item. So let's say for the list item tag, we want to say the ends child is written like this, ends child, and we want to use if the child is an odd number. So let's see. So we'll have 1, 2, 3, 4. So 1 is odd, 3 is odd. So by alternating, we want to change the style in alternate list. Sometimes you just want to beautify or make it clear. Let's say we'll have the background color to be F2, 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 something like this. And for the even ones, we want to change the number. So let's say LI ends child, and for the even numbers, we want to say the background color should be also a different color. Let's say Haj DDD, something like this. When we come to our page and we refresh, we have it alternating in color, all odd number, all even number. So you have this nice transition for you to know where a particular list item starts, where it ends, the next one, to give it a beautiful effect on the web page. So this is pseudo-class. If you refer to your lesson resource, you see different pseudo-classes. There are a lot of them and there are definitions. I'm not going to go into examples of each, but the definition in your lesson notes will tell you what it is and you can try them out to see different examples. We have pseudo-elements, and it is used to style different parts of an element. Like we want to style the first line of an element, we want to style the first letter, we want to insert a content before or after an element, and we use double colon, not a single colon like this. For pseudo-elements, it's going to be double colon like this. So let's illustrate a pseudo-element. Let's say we want to, before the H1 tag, let's use H1 here. Before this H1 tag, we want to put something there. So let's say H1 before, and let's say we want to change the content of it. Let me add something. I want to add something there. Maybe we'll add an asterisk before H1 tag, something like this. And after it, I want to add an asterisk. So I'll say H1. So you can use icon to do this. Okay, if you want to add icons before and after. So I'll say after it, I want to add the same asterisk. When I come to my web page and I refresh, I have an asterisk before, I have an asterisk after. So you see how we use a pseudo elements to add before and after. Let's say I want to change the style of the first letter or maybe a paragraph. Let's change this and see how we can apply. I'm going to comment this out. So let's have these two paragraphs here, and I want to apply a style to the first letter of the paragraph. So let's say I'll use a P tag, double colon, and I'll put first letter, and the first letter, maybe I want to make it bigger, so I'll put font size, and the font size I'll use, let's say use 2em, let's use something relative, and the color I'll use will be red. The font weight, let's make it bold. So let's use this. When we come to our web page and refresh, we see the first letter of paragraph like that. So when you're writing a blog and maybe a blog post, a news article or something, this will come in handy. Let's say we want to use the selection pseudo element and we want to apply a background color and the color of the text when it is selected. So let's say if I want to highlight something, for instance, for this paragraph tag, let me comment this out. For this paragraph tag, I want to select it or highlight it to see an effect. So I'll come to my page and I'm going to use the pseudo element called selection. So I want to use this and I'll change the background color. So it must not be to just the P tag, but I'll use it for P, and I'll say background color here should be yellow, and then we'll change the text color to be black. So the text color is always black anyway, so I just want to put it here. So when something is selected, you want the background color to be yellow. So when I refresh and I select, you see the effect. All right, so this is how we use the pseudo elements. Refer to your lesson resource to look at the definition to try them out. Okay, but you can combine both pseudo class and pseudo elements to have a more powerful effect. Like for instance, let's go back to our example of the link. I'll delete all of this. I want to have an effect for hover and after, so I can say the anchor tag and I have the hover effect. I want to have the after pseudo element, and then I'll change the content here to be, let's say, I'll just put something here and I'll put the color to be gray, something like this. When I come here and I refresh, I have it to put link when I hover like this. They have more powerful effects. So the practical uses of this is to highlight input field when you focus, for you to create custom tooltip with using the after. So we have custom tooltip like this, for you to add icons before and after links, for you to alternate table rows. So what we did with the nth child for odd and even when we want to create table styles, and we'll see that next week when we look at tables, when we alternate the colors in table rows. When we want to style only the first letter or the first line of an article, these are practical uses of pseudo class and pseudo elements. So we looked at the links and how we can use the link, visited, hover, and active pseudo classes. And these are very important that you specify them in a particular order. So we'll have this link here and we want to put all of the pseudo classes that we use for a link. So let's say we use the link first and we want the color to be blue. So when the link is not yet visited or clicked on, it is blue. We want to set the link when it is visited and we want the color to be purple. So we're just trying to do something like a default, but I want to illustrate something and an order for you to see. We want to have, when you hover over this link, you want to have the color to be red, and maybe we'll have the text decoration to be removed. So we'll say none, or let's say it will be underlined. So which means that let's have a general style for the link, which will be text decoration none. Okay, and then when it's active, we want it to be, let's use orange. So while we're clicking on it, now this order always matters. Whenever you are putting your style for the link or the anchor tag, you must put it in this order: link, visited, hover, active. It always has to be, just remember LVHA, that has to be the order: link, visited, hover, active. All right, so let's refresh our page and we'll see. So when it hovers over, it is red and underlined. When we click, it is orange. When it's visited, it is purple. So we can style link as buttons. We can use transitions for smooth effects. Transition is in an advanced course. If you take the HTML, CSS, and JavaScript web development course, you will see how we use transition and animation and all of that. And we can also style it using the target attribute, as we looked at the attribute selector. And then we can also use icons using pseudo elements to put an icon before or after the links. So one of the best practices that you can have when you use this is to maintain the contrast between links and the background. You want to ensure that the visited links can be distinguishable for usability. We want to use hover effects for better interactivities. We want to avoid removing underlines unless you replace them with another clear visual indicator. We want to use it for accessibility, and we don't want to rely on color alone, but to differentiate between links using underline, bold, and so on. All right, so we use links for navigation, and if you refer to your lesson resource, you'll see how that is used. As this is a course dedicated just for CSS alone, we are not going to look deeply at the whole web development picture, but we're going to look at this as an advanced course, which is sequel to this, the HTML, CSS, and JavaScript front-end development course. Thank you and see you next week.